A genocide that killed millions, the Holocaust's successes, failures, and consequential debates. The Holocaust illustrated the consequences of prejudice, racism, and stereotyping on a society. It forces us to examine the responsibilities of citizenship and confront the powerful ramifications of indifference and inaction. Tim Holden. The Holocaust was the genocide of European Jews during World War II. The Nazis called it the final solution. About 6 million people, 2/3 of the total Jewish population in Europe, were killed. About 200,000 mentally and physically disabled patients, mostly Germans, were murdered in the euthanasia program. 2 to 3 million prisoners died of starvation, disease, or maltreatment. Also, Germans persecuted homosexuals for not being socially normal. You are Jewish? Yes. You have not horns, you have not beards. You're supposed to look like the devil, you know. They didn't know that Jewish people look normal. Conversation between Helena Kahn, Polish Jew, and a German. To control the Jewish population, the Nazi government and Germans created concentration camps and ghettos, the city districts where Jews were forced to live. Life was horrible. Prisoners were forced to do physical labor, slept 3 or more people per one bunk with no mattress or pillows, and torture was common. At a couple camps, Nazi doctors, such as Josef Mengele, even conducted medical experiments on prisoners against their will, such as testing them with drugs or freezing them. Nazis also ordered Jews to establish a Judenrat, which was a Jewish council to administer Nazi demands and regulate internal life. During the start of World War II, Nazis ordered Jews to wear a yellow Star of David so they could be recognized and spotted. During November 9th to 10th, 1939, Nazis started an event called Kristallnacht, which translates to Night of Broken Glass, where synagogues were burned and pillaged, windows of Jewish-owned businesses were broken, robberies in those stores occurred, and Jews were attacked. Between 1941 and 1944, Nazi German authorities deported millions of Jews to ghettos and extermination camps where they were killed in specially designed gassing facilities. On April 13, 1943, when the Nazis attempted to liquidate the Warsaw Ghetto, the Jews fought back, known as the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. The Jewish resistance fighters heroically held out against the Nazis for 28 days until they were finally overrun. The Germans finally surrendered. During the aftermath, many survivors lived in displaced person camps. The last camp, Fovrenwald, closed in 1957. A success of the Holocaust was it played a role in the establishment of the State of Israel. The Holocaust motivated large numbers of immigrants to move to the new country, providing the necessary population. The Holocaust enabled Israel to pressure Germany in supplying the economic base to build infrastructure and support those immigrants because of Germany's guilt of the actions that they committed. Thirdly, the Holocaust swayed the world's opinion so that the UN approved the creation of the State of Israel in 1948. When the State of Israel was established, the first thing they offered was welcome to Jews around the world. Over 325,000 Jews from Nazi-occupied Europe came between 1948 and 1951. Israeli political leaders communicated receiving amends from Germany. Dr. Sham Weizmann, the president of Israel at the time, sent a letter on September 20, 1945 to the Allies for restitution of $8 billion. The Israeli government had a tough time convincing Israeli citizens about reaching agreement with the Nazis because they had experienced what the Nazis were capable of. On September 10, 1952, the Luxembourg Treaty was signed, giving Israel the needed resources to survive the first few years. Because of the Holocaust, reparations of West Germany brought them closer. The greatest failure of the Holocaust was that no other nations intervened to stop it sooner and save more lives. Also, Jewish communities and culture was lost forever. Now, a noteworthy debate about the Holocaust was, did the Holocaust really happen? Holocaust denial or minimization or distortion of the facts of the Holocaust is a form of anti-Semitism, which is prejudice against or hatred of Jews. Holocaust deniers believe discrediting one fact from the Holocaust can let you discredit the whole event. Deniers thought that the Jewish leaders were the creator of the Holocaust and they wanted to control the world's finances and increase support for Israel. Deniers make one or more of the following 5 claims. 1. Nazis didn't use gas chambers to mass murder Jews. 2nd, the figure of 5 to 6 million Jewish deaths was exaggerated. 3rd, many photos and film footage after World War II were specially manufactured as propaganda against the Nazis. 4th, historical proof of the Holocaust is falsified or deliberately misinterpreted. And finally, there is an American, British, or Jewish conspiracy to make Jews look like victims and to demoralize Germans. The goal of deniers is to rehabilitate Nazism and fascism and to promote anti-Semitism and anti-Israel sentiment. Because of the U.S. First Amendment, it is not against the law to deny the Holocaust or to propagate Nazi and anti-Semitic hate speech. In Germany and France, people are criminalized when they deny, and Nazi publications have been banned. George Rockwell, an American Nazi leader, said, "The Holocaust was a monstrous and profitable fraud." Arthur Butz, a fellow professor at Northwestern University, claimed the amount of people killed was breathtakingly absurd, absolutely insane, fishy, and nonsense. A second debate is about how the innocent Holocaust survivors would get their money back from the Swiss banks. The Swiss banks for half a century were clinging to the money deposited by desperate Jews on the eve of the Holocaust. Instead of returning the money to the bereaved families, it was thought that the banks had brushed the victims aside with decades of pettifogging excuses. The largest business newspaper of Tel Aviv, Globe, claimed that as much as $7 billion in Holocaust survivors' money lay dormant in the banks. The Wall Street Journal even printed a front-page article on the struggles the survivors had in retrieving their money. The banks had followed a Swiss government decree in 1962, which forced banks and other companies to report all assets of foreign or stateless persons subject to radical religious or political persecution. After many heated debates, in August of 1998, the banks agreed to pay $1.25 billion to split among survivors. However, survivors did not receive money until several years later. After everything that happened, many survivors did not want to return to their homelands because they feared for their lives. Anti-Jewish riots were being held all around Europe. For example, in Poland, the largest being in 1946 in a town called Kielce, where 42 Jews were killed and many others were beaten. In 1945 in Nuremberg, a war-ravaged town in southern Germany, 22 high-ranking Nazi officials were named and brought to trial before the world. Robert Jackson, chief persecutor of the United States at the Nuremberg trials, addressed the International Military Tribunal on November 20th, 1945, the first day in court. The privilege of opening the first trial in history for crimes against the peace of the world imposes a grave responsibility. The wrongs which we seek to condemn and punish have been so calculated, so malignant, and so devastating that civilization cannot tolerate their being ignored, because it cannot survive their being repeated. That 4 great nations, flushed with victory and stung with injury, stay the hand of vengeance, voluntarily submit their captive enemies to the judgment of the law is one of the most significant tributes that power has ever paid to reason. In 1948, the U.S. Congress passed the Displaced Persons Act, which provided approximately 400,000 U.S. immigration visas for displaced persons between January 1, 1949 and December 31, 1952. Jews also immigrated as displaced persons or refugees to Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Mexico, South America, and South Africa. Overall, the Holocaust was a devastating event that had millions of people killed, but through it all there were some successes. For example, West Germany and Israel formed agreements making their relationship not as hostile. The failures include nations not coming sooner to aid the Jewish communities. The consequences of the Holocaust were the debates that resulted. The Holocaust was an event no one will ever forget. Suffering has taught me that as bad as things are, they are not as bad as they could be. Alfred Huberman, Polish Jewish survivor. It was fortunate to go to a concentration camp because it changed my life. It changed my outlook. I emerged a different person. George Hartman, Czech Jewish survivor.